In this series, we're going to show you how to make a reusable app. Now, when I say reusable app, I literally mean pip install your app name. In our case, it's pip install servup-comments. That's it. That's actually what we're going to show you how to do. Now, we don't show you how to make the app. We show you just the part of making it be able to do pip install servup-comments. That's it. So since we're doing this, we're actually referencing two different step-by-step tutorial guides that are online. One of them's with Django. One of them is just specifically for PyPi. So if you want to follow along with us in this video, I recommend that you just watch it. Don't actually try and do it as we do it, because I go fairly quickly, but you could also speed it up so you can just watch how it's done and then reference the video as well as those documentation to do it yourself. That's kind of what I would suggest for this video in particular. The majority of the time, I don't suggest that because it makes more sense to actually do it with me at the time I do it. But there's just so much in this that is coming directly off of a written guide. But I wanted to share it with you to see, so you could see how it's actually done, first of all, and then also so you can learn about the just general context and the things that I do differently from these guides. So you can do it and make sure that it works well for you. So if you have any questions on this, please let me know in the comments below. But also, if you finish one of these, you actually do this and release your app to PyPi, let us know in the comments too. I would love to check those out, whether it's a GitHub link or the actual PyPi link, that doesn't matter. Just let us know generally where we could take a look at it, and also give us a little summary as to what the app is also in the comments. So a little summary, a link. Please put those things below because I would love to check out what you guys are working on, and that will help us shape some of the content we do in the future. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you guys in the series. Please say hello at any time. Thanks a lot. In this one, we're going to be showing you how to write a reusable app. Now, a reusable app is something that you can use in a lot of your projects, and it's actually highly recommended to start thinking in terms of reusable apps if you end up making a lot of apps. So let's say, for instance, you wanted your own comments app and you wanted to see it in all of your projects, right? You wanted to use comments in all of your projects and on any URL. That's actually something that we've already built, and we show you how to do it in Django Comments. So if you go on codingforentrepreneurs.com/projects, Django Comments, or simply just joincfe.com without the security, but joincfe.com/projects and Django-comments, this is where we show you actually how to build the comments app. Now we built that app specifically so we can show you how to write a reusable one. So where we are right now is we've built a very basic version of what hopefully the production app ends up being, right? So right now, if you go on the servup-comments app itself, it's the same code as we finished with the CFE Django comments. Now, this repository is what we're going to be working off of. And if you actually watched this whole project already, you can stop now and return back in this video using the same code that you have at minute 9:20. And if you haven't done it, we're going to be pulling this repo, or even if you have, but we're going to be pulling this repo as it stands right now in version 1.11. So Django version 1.11, of course, is a LTS release. That means that it's going to be supported well into 2020. So it's 2017 right now. Okay, cool. So the point of this is to show you how to use a reusable app, though. It's not really to show you about the comments app, right? That is just the goal of that tutorial. But really, the goal of this one is specifically to show you how to write a reusable app so you don't have to constantly repeat yourself. Something like comments you might use in every one of your projects. We do. That's why we are committed to creating a robust version in the form of servup-comments. Now, as far as the teaching portion of it, we stopped at CFE Django comments. It's possible that we'll come back to it with some other technology or some upgrades, But as it stands right now, it's just at lecture 15 or number 15. So that's the one we're actually going to be going off of. Okay, so why does this matter exactly? As it says in here, it's basically so you can solve common problems that go across your projects. And once you make it reusable, you might as well make it reusable for everybody. Now, you don't have to do this, but it's something we're doing. So it's basically reusable for everybody. So that means that every developer that might use your code can submit issues if there are issues that come up, so your code can get better and even more reusable, right? So in our case, that's where we started. We wanted to make it so all of our projects can use the same thing. And more specifically, we wanted to put it on, if you look at our comments, we wanted to put it in the Serve Up 2 project. So that's a whole nother project in of itself. But then it's like, oh, well, you know, if we release Geolocator 2, which we are, we want to have comments in there too. So we wanted to keep this kind of uniform look to it, and you guys should be doing the same thing. Now, it depends on where you are in the development process. So if you're still learning Django and you're not that familiar with how apps work and stuff like that, you're not going to do this, right? On Django's documentation, there's a reason it says advanced tutorial. In fact, if you are still learning Django and you're not that comfortable with it, I say repeat yourself all you want. That is, redo these apps over and over again, so eventually you'll start to see the patterns that emerge in those apps. Even if you don't call it comments, but you call it questions, or you call it messages or something like that. Like, even if you call it different names, you'll start to see common patterns that come out inside of building your apps. So if you're a more advanced user, that is, if you've watched a ton of my projects, or just know a lot about Django, or you feel really good about Django, that's where this is for you. In the sense that it will start curbing how much you have to write apps in general. So with all that done, let's actually go ahead and get started by cloning the repo at github.com. And let's go ahead and zoom into that just a little bit. There we go. So github.com, coding for entrepreneurs, CFE Django comments. And of course, if you just go to our repo and look for the Django comments project, you should be able to find this. If you have problems finding it, please let us know in the link below or the comments below, and we will give you a link to it. Okay, so I'm clicking on the item 15. So code 15, so this is from lecture 15 of this project. I'm going to go ahead and clone or download this. Now, it's really up to you on how you want to go about doing this. I'm going to actually bring it on to the desktop. So I'm going to actually clone and do it on the desktop. But since there are other people that have followed this project of CFE Django comments, I will actually go back to using that specific code in just a moment. Like I said, you're going to be able to fast forward to a certain time. This is the reason. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my desktop, and I'm going to make a new directory called CFE-Django-comments, and I'll cd into that. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and clone this in here. So again, you could download the zip file and just do something very similar, but I'm going to go ahead and clone it. So this is the Git that it's going to clone from, right? It's actually not cloning from the area that I am. So actually, maybe downloading would be a good idea, because this will give me the repo in its current state. So see that it has this right here. So that is actually not what I'm going to do. I want to show you how to grab it based off of that repo itself. So if I look in the README file and I go to raw, I can actually scroll down and I see this tree item here. So that is what we actually want to use, is whatever that version is. Now, of course, if there were other things, you can check out each one of these versions as you see fit. But I'm not really going to be checking it out. Instead, I'm going to set my code to that version, which is pretty cool. So basically, I'll do git clone, and that URL, that original URL, you can actually use this same one right here, and then do period. And that's going to clone this in for me. And all I need to do here is git reset --force, or excuse me, --hard, and then the actual item itself. So the git commit item number itself, or if I do git log, it's the commit itself. And what I notice, if I scroll up a little bit, it says head is now at that one. So it's at that actual upgrading for Django version 1.11. So now I actually have that code. Again, that is if there's other code or new code to this, that is what you're going to want to do. And now you're at where everybody else is with the video. The main thing you need to do still is virtual env-p python 3 period. And it's going to install Python version 3 inside here for your virtual environment. We're going to go ahead and activate it. And then we'll do pip install-r requirements.txt. And there we go. So it's installing those requirements. And again, look for the one saying upgrading for Django version 1-11, which is actually 1.11. Look for that one, and you're going to go off of that number, not this number that's in the video. Because for some reason, if there's any errors in production or something like that, we might have to change this. So just go off of whatever that one is and grab that number. And of course, you grab that from raw. Okay, so now that we've got that, I can actually go into source, and I can run the server. And this should look exactly like what we've done in our actual course itself. So I'm going to open up a new tab and look at the server. Looks like it's working just like we have in the example we had in the CFE Django comments course. Okay, so now we've got that app. This is where everyone else is going to join us at this time. So now we're all on the same page. That's kind of the point. We wanted everyone to be on the same page, so we're working off of the same app. Now that we've got this, let's go ahead and start looking at this tutorial, this step-by-step of actually getting this going. So what we see here is a bunch of things related to any given Django project, as we might see here. So if I open up my project in Sublime Text, which those of you who cloned it, you can just open up the actual Sublime Text files, and it should open up just like this. But I'm going to close things down a little bit. And what we see here is the serve up comments. So this is the actual name of the Django project. I did it that way for a reason. We'll see what that reason is in just a moment. But it's virtually the same way, right? So we've got our polls app. Instead of polls app, we called it comments. And then we've got all this stuff in here. So that's essentially what it looks like. Next, we need to install some prerequisites to our actual app. So it looks like we need to install the setup tools. So let's go ahead and try that out. I'll just do pip install setup tools. Already satisfied. Looks like I already have it in my app. If you don't have it, make sure that you do. Okay, so that is likely already going to be there. So it's not something we really have to worry about, but definitely make sure that you check this out, because you might run into some errors if there's something that we missed. And of course, if there's something that we missed, we will come back to this. Okay, now packaging your app. This is the main important part. I know there's a lot of it building up to this, but this is really what it's all about. Okay, so now we need to create a parent directory for polls outside of your Django project. So this is a parent directory for our app, the app that we want to reuse. We want to actually put outside of our Django project. I, on the other hand, am going to keep it in my virtual environment. And my virtual environment app from the series is called ServeUp-Comments. So I'm going to actually keep it that way, and I'll do a new folder in here and call it ServeUp-Comments. Okay, so now in my virtual environment, I have my Django project inside of source, and I have ServeUp-Comments, which is empty, and then my static files in there, which is also empty. So I want to bring my comments app in there. I personally am not going to just jump the gun and just drag it over. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it over. So I'm going to bring it over and just add in a copy. I'm holding down the Alt or Option key here. If you're on Windows, just do a copy, a Control C and Control V of the actual folder. And now we've got it in there. Okay, so I have it in there, and we want to look at the way they have it set out. Now, it's possible that it says a parent directory for that, and we call this directory Django polls. So the way I see this read is that we called it ServeUp-Comments, and then we added comments into that directory, right? So again, choosing the name for your app, you are probably, if you want to use a Django reusable app, you're probably going to use something like Django in front of the app to help others, like it says, identify this. Now, in our case, the reason we're calling it ServeUp is because we want ServeUp itself to be this whole-on open source package and stuff like that that allows us to do all sorts of things with it. So that's kind of the reason we're calling it ServeUp. But really, best practice, you would call it Django-something. So in our case, we could call it Django-ServeUp-comments, but we're going to call it ServeUp comments. That's just a business choice, really, more than anything. But as a developer, I'm making clear, obvious choice that you should call it Django-something if it's a Django-only project. Okay, so we've already moved the polls directory in there, but we didn't actually move it. We just copied it over. The reason I didn't move it, again, has to do with how our project works. Okay, so we've got this README example. This is actually how you're going to want to have your README, so how it's actually going to work. So our final production one we'll do off recording, but I'm going to put it in here, and I'll say new file, readme.rst. Notice it's RST, not MD. So in here, I'm going to call this ServeUp comments. And again, I'll change all this stuff later, but I want to call it comments. Notice I call it comments in here because that's the name of my app. Now, if I wanted to change it, which I might have to change later, I would do so. Now, again, include the polls, conf, and stuff like that. So in my case, I have the Django REST framework in here too. So if I go into my settings, I want to get all of these. So I had all of these in here. So I'm going to put that into my installed apps. And you're probably going to want to add in something like, one is actually install dependencies. And that would be pip install Django REST framework and course headers. So let's go into our pip file, our requirements file. So it's this one and this one. Those are two that we absolutely need. And then we go ahead and add comments to our installed apps. Okay, so I'm not going to do the rest, but they will be done on the final production version. This is really just instructions for somebody else to use it, and that's why it's there. But I will actually delete the rest for now and delete the actual details in there as well. And I'll just say coming soon. Okay. So now that we've got that, we're going to go to the next part, which is adding the license file. So again, inside of our app, I'm going to close down the Django one, and I'm going to make a new file in here, and we're just going to call it license, just like that. I also want to make sure my README is capitalized like it has here. So I will actually change that. So I'm going to close out the README and just rename this. I want to follow it to a T because there might be a reason for that. And it looks like it didn't want to change the name there. So I'm going to change it to not being capitalized. I'll just say readme2 and make another one and call it readme.rst, all caps. Copy the old one, bring it over, save it, and let's go ahead and delete that old one. Okay, so the license, this is an issue. This is something that you want to think about. As it says, it's like kind of beyond the scope of this tutorial. I kind of feel the same way, but I will use an MIT license, just like we have on most of our repos are MIT licenses. So I'm going to bring that in, and there we go. So I'm actually copyrighted into Coding for Entrepreneurs, so that's the case. All right, so now we've got our license done. Let's go to the next part. I realize a lot of this stuff is a little mundane, and you can probably follow the documentation, but there's some context that I want to bring into it too. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this entire thing right here as far as my setup is concerned. So this is the installation process. So I'm going to come in here and call it setup.py and just paste this in. So again, the name in my case is going to be serveup-comments, and the version in my case, I'm going to do version 1.0. So this is the first version. And again, the description, all this stuff, README, notice the README, RST, see that it's capitalized. It's possible that that could run an error, so I also made it capitalized. So we've got our README here. We're going to want to change all of this stuff. Here's the main thing right here is we want to make sure that we have Django version 1.11 at least, right? And of course, replace where appropriate. Now, I don't want to use Python 2. I'm not actually using that. I'm only using Python version 3. I will actually add one more line in here and put 3.6 because that's actually how I set this up. It's not a BSD license, it's an MIT license. That's it. OS independent, at least it should be. And there we go. So that is the main thing as far as classifiers are concerned. So again, I'll just put serveup.com in this case, and my author, I will put that in, and we'll just say hello at teamcfe.com. And it's a simple Django app to handle comments with JavaScript. That's essentially what it is. Okay, so that's it for the setup process. That is literally it. Okay, so now what we need to do is add in the manifest. So let's go ahead and do that. And again, we want to follow their naming convention here. And I'm going to go ahead and add it in. Save it as manifest, all capitalized, .in. We'll save that. We're going to copy all of these things here. Save that. And optional but recommended, include documentation with your app. So if you had documentation, you would put docs in here. So I'm going to just go ahead and make a new folder, called it docs, and leave that empty. And then add this extra line in here. Actually, we might not want to keep it empty. I'll just say blank.txt and say coming soon. Save that just to make sure that it actually is included in like our git push or anything like that. Okay, so try building your package. Now we're at the point where the package, we can actually try and build it inside of this app. So what I want to do is change back into where it is. So I'm in my virtual environment now, and I see that I've got serve up comments here. So I'll go ahead and change into serve up comments. And just for reference, this is where I am. Notice I have two folders or two directories named serve up comments, and there it is. So what I want to do now is Python setup as dist. So I'm just literally copying that, press enter, and I created an archive, or at least I should have created an archive inside of there. And it'll say that it has a new package tar.dz. I don't actually see that anywhere. So let's try it again and see what the errors were. So there were no errors. It's in the dist folder, as it probably says in the documentation. But that's where it is. So there is our app, right? That's our actual app right there that we can actually run and use. Okay, so now we can use this actual installation package. So what I'm going to do is not put it into our current Django project. Instead, I'm going to just create a dummy one. So we'll go into desktop, and I'll just do make dir delete 2. You can call it whatever. I just need to delete these. And I'm going to make a virtual env in here with Python 3. And there it goes. So it's going to create that. Once it's done creating, which it is, we'll do source bin/activate. Okay, so now that we've got this, of course I can do pip stuff. So if I do pip freeze, I should see nothing actually installed here. So let's go ahead and actually install our new item here. And we'll go ahead and change into dist, and I'll do pip freeze here. Or sorry, not pip freeze, but pwd. It's showing the location. Notice it says tar.gz. So this is the actual long form location of where it's located. Obviously adding that there. If you're on Windows, you'd use dir, and that should give you the path as to where you are. And then all you would do is just add that one part of serve up comments. So in here, I'm going to do pip install -- user. Actually, I'll leave out user. I want to see what it does without user. And going back in here, so pip install, and then we want to get that path, put a slash at the end of it, and the appropriate slash depending on what system you're on. So it might go the other way if you're on Windows. So I'm going to go ahead and try and install this. And there it is. It's successfully installed that. I do pip freeze, and what do you know? There it is. Serve up - comments equaling to 1. Okay, cool. So that actually works. So now what we're going to do is actually publish this. I'm gonna pause the video for a moment, and then you can take a break if you need, because you probably do, because we're going to pause the video and actually do some tests to make sure that it's working just fine. We're going to send it to our GitHub repository, which we will show you what we did there. And then we'll actually upload this to PyPi, or to the Python package index. Okay, so we'll see you in just a moment. So now what we're going to do is actually upload it to PyPi. Now I'm going to do it under a different name, ServeUp, so you can see it from scratch. But generally the things are the same. But I will note a few things that I learned while uploading ServeUp comments. So first thing, readme.rst, that is specifically for PyPi. Readme.md or Markdown, that is much better for Git or GitHub. So if you upload this to GitHub, I would much prefer using readme.md because that's what GitHub's gonna go down to, and it uses Markdown, so it's a lot easier to format and look good, as we'll see in just a moment. Next, the setup.py. So this is also fairly important. First of all, you're gonna put your name here. This name is gonna probably have to be unique to PyPi. It doesn't have to be unique to your local system, but using pip install or the Python index, that is probably going to have to be unique. Finally, your version number does make a difference to what we're about to do. So every time you change something new and you want to release it to the public, you have to change your version number. You can't like override version numbers, or at least I haven't seen a way to do so. If you have, please let us know in the comments below. Next, adding a description, that's important. Classifiers, all these things, we've already kind of talked about that. Next thing, manifest in. So if you want to make sure you include everything inside of your app, definitely make sure you include it. So if I look at the app folder itself, which is where we are right now, this is the app folder that I've made off recording just to show you generally what I mean. So inside the app itself, if I want to make sure I get static and templates, these two folders here, I have to actually declare them. So as far as Python is concerned, it's not Python modules. That's why you actually have to put them in there. As you see, there's no init file in there. Where template tags does have one, API does have one, PyCache does have one, but that probably won't actually come through either. We'll see what that means in just a moment, but what we see here is the setup does all the things that we need as far as the Python package is concerned. Manifest in gets me all of the other things that aren't necessarily Python related. Finally, the license, I'm using MIT like I said before, but I want to make sure that I have it in all the different places according to what it is and what it should be. Okay, so now if I go back into the advanced tutorial on Django project, I see that they even give me a good tutorial for actually sending it to PyPi. So this is where it takes you. It takes you to packaging.python.org. and it takes you uploading your project to PyPi. So what PyPi is, again, is the Python package index. So it's what pip uses to install things. So when you do pip install something, it's going off of PyPi. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to actually want to go to PyPi, and I'll go ahead and do a quick search for that. Click on it, and this is it. So you're actually going to want to create a new account. It's free. So that's something that's fairly good to know, is that it is free to do this, and then you're just going to want to install it, right? So it says it here, package authors, it does all this other stuff, but we're going to go back into the tutorial here to go through it. So you've already created that account. I'm going to assume that you've already created that account. The next thing that you want to do is you want to manually write a file that's going to allow PyPi to work locally. Windows users, I'm sorry, I haven't tested this on there, so hopefully this works as well. If it doesn't, please let us know a solution that you found in the comments below. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do nano the actual .py.pirc file, and notice what I put in here. It is different than the documentation, right? So the documentation has username and password. Of course, I put my actual username there, but I did not put my password, and that's because it will ask you for your password when you actually bring your project out. Okay, so it gives you 3 different ways on how to upload it. I'm not going to go through that yet. Instead, I'm going to use Twine. Twine is how we're actually going to go about uploading it. But before I can actually upload it, I have to run and make sure that Python or my project is there. So in my case, if I close this out, and I want to make sure I'm in the right project. So this is my test project. Yes, I changed the location, but it's roughly the same of what you should have, right? So you should have comments. You might have dist, or you might not. So in my case, I actually don't have it. So I'm just starting it kind of over again. I'm just going to do python setup.py and sdist and hit enter. And now it should do it. So I actually should have a file inside of my dist tag. So let's go ahead and open it just to make sure we have the right one. We go into dist and here it is. So if I actually double click this and open it up, we see everything. It's all the same stuff, right? So I've got my docs in here, comments, static, all that. So if I didn't include the recursive or manifest in, if I didn't include these things here, you wouldn't see them in this unzipped file, right? You just wouldn't. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete that unzipped version because I don't actually need it. And then I'll go back in here and I'll start using Twine again. So in their example, they have Twine upload dist. Well, of course I need to actually install Twine. So let's make sure my virtual environment is activated. And I'm gonna have to create one in this example. So serve up comments and we'll just do virtual env. I'm gonna go back a level actually and do virtual env and do python 3. Okay. And you probably have already done this. I'm sorry if it's kind of repetitive, but I just want to make sure you guys know exactly what it is that I'm doing. So I'm going to do pip install Twine. And again, I'm in my virtual environment. In this case, my virtual environment is called PyPi. It's just where I located it. So if I change back into serve up comments, I should have that working fine, right? So Twine is in there. Other stuff, this yours might look different. So don't worry too much if yours looks different than that. That's completely fine. I'm just really trying to get this working so you guys can see it in action. Again, it goes back. It says Twine upload dist and with the star. So we can do that. So I'll just do Twine upload and then dist star. I'll hit enter. It's asking for your password, right? So it would have asked for your username if you didn't put that. But in my case, I put no password there so I can just type it out and push it up. So it's not just stored on my computer. This is just like a safety measure just for my own peace of mind. You don't necessarily have to do that. Okay, so I actually have it in there. But if I try to run it again, it's going to give me an error saying this already exists. So that's when you make new changes. So let's say I put this as version 2, so 0.0.0.2, and I run Python. Let's do it again. I'll do python setup.py dist, or excuse me, sdist, and we list everything out. If I change into dist itself, I see that there's now 2 versions in there. So the version I want to upload is actually this one. So let's change back and we'll do Twine. Well, I'll just go up again, and instead of Twine's dist star, I'll actually just upload the version I want. And then that way we don't have any errors when uploading, right? So now it's at serve up version 002. So if I go back into PyPi and refresh in here, I now see that I have 2 comments in here. I can click on one and here is serve up version 0.002, right? So it's actually working. So I can go in and just do, let's go ahead and I'm going to just minimize stuff. It's getting a little crowded here. Minimize it and open a new file here. So I'm going to change into desktop and I'm going to make a new directory and I'm going to call it delete, 5 or whatever, and cd into delete 5. And I'll make a new virtual environment, Python 3. And again, I'm just making these delete folders because I'm going to delete them after all this is done. And then we'll just go ahead and activate the project. We'll do pip install, and I'm going to call it serve up comments and serve up. So you can see the 2 different things that I actually have in there. So it's downloading. It downloaded serve up. Notice it didn't actually download serve up comments because I already have it in my cache, so I don't actually have to re-download it, is essentially why. And if I do pip freeze, there we go. That actually is showing my 2 packages. Okay, so I actually want to update one of my packages. So let's go ahead. I'm going to just go back into where I had it before. And I think this might be it. No, that's not the one. Okay, so here it is. So I'm gonna go ahead and update it, and I'm gonna try and upgrade this, right? So again, pip freeze. This is showing me the things that are actually installed through pip. So if I go into my library, Python 3.6, go into site packages, and I go into comments. This is my actual comment app. Notice it's in there. Everything's in there, static. All the things that I did for that particular project are definitely in there. Okay, so again, I want to upgrade my file here. So going back into where my app actually is, I want to upgrade it. I want to have a new version of it. So I'm going to come in here and just make version 0.0.3. That's all I did to change it. And then again, Python setup.py sdist. And there we go, version 3 is there. And then twine upload dist. And well, I need to get the version that I want. Again, if I did this and try to upload it, it might work, but it also might not. So see, it tries to upload 1, the original one. So instead, I'll just do servup-0.0.3, the version we're working with, .tar.gz, hit enter, and of course, log in again. It logs in. It looks like it worked just fine. Now I jump over here and do pip install servup --upgrade, and it's saying it's fine. I don't need to actually upgrade it, right? So my project, of course, was servup, as we see here, and version 3 is there. If I go and check on PyPi, I refresh in there, I see that version 3 is there. So why isn't it that this isn't actually upgrading it? Well, it's going to take a minute. It might take 10 minutes or something to actually propagate to where pip will actually go through and upgrade this. So this is something to note when you're actually, releasing new software, is that you might have to release it the night before and then announce it the next day, just to make sure that everyone who wants to upgrade, they can in a timely manner. Now, it's very possible that what I just did didn't happen for you. It's absolutely possible. It's absolutely possible that the upgrade could have worked. And it's also possible that if you go into another virtual environment, that upgrade could also still work, or the new version could still work. But there's also a possibility that this happens. I mean, I'm glad it happened for me in real time, because it is an important thing to note that it doesn't always happen right away. That's something else that's really important. Now, if you're watching this and you're like, oh, well, I want to use the ServeUp Comments app and I want to see what that looks like. Well, it's actually available now on github.com/servup/servup comments. You can actually go here, use it, follow the quick start guide. Again, as you see, it's in Markdown. I still have the RST in there too, but it says, hey, go check out the actual repo itself, which is what the PyPi example has for both of these, right? So if I go to view, so this is viewing it as if you were not the person who controls it. I have it right here, right? So it just says coming soon. Check out these comments. In the meantime, check that out. Now, if I search servup-comments, hit enter, I click on that. I see that here's my servup comments. Notice it's still showing this old version of the RST. It's not necessarily showing what's on GitHub. So again, it takes some time for these things to propagate. This is what it will end up showing. Right now, it's not. It's showing another version that I had working on there, which is showing sort of Markdown. And even if it does this, it's not the worst thing ever, because the PyPi repo, it still has some of these other things. So notice all of this. This should look very familiar as to what you were doing before. That's this, right? And also, it's showing the wrong version. Maybe because I'm on the wrong version. So if I click on the right version, now it's actually showing me a little bit better as to what I wanted to see, right? So I see the repo as the homepage versus just servup.com and all this other stuff. So really cool. I know I covered a lot of stuff in this, and I do recommend that you check out the different written tutorials if you have questions, because it goes into the really nitty-gritty detail that I just didn't go through, because I wanted to show you guys just generally how to do all of this all at once. And sure, it took a long time to do it, but once you get this down, you'll be able to release your own apps on PyPi in no time. I mean, really, in no time. In the grand scheme of things, what I did is not that difficult The main thing is that I want to re-emphasize is if you release a new version doing sdist, you want to make sure that you just, when you upload it using Twine, you want to make sure that you actually declare what that version is. Otherwise, you'll get those errors. So those are the two commands, really. That's it. To send it to PyPi, assuming you have everything else set up, it's Python setup.py sdist, and then Twine upload dist / whatever version you have. And that file, the file version will actually come through on dist. So this is the version here. But of course, you could still just jump into whatever your dist directory is, and you'll see those versions right there. Okay, so thank you again for watching this whole thing. If you did, I realize there's a lot here, and I went pretty fast through it. Here's one of the other reasons why I went so fast. I want you guys to not necessarily always follow along with every video. It is very useful sometimes to just watch the video all the way through, just to get an idea of what's going to happen, so then you can use the documentation to actually, do everything that we're about to do. I'm now to think of it, I'm probably going to say the same thing at the very beginning of the video too, at least cut it in so you guys know what to expect in this one. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I hope that you subscribe on joincfe.com/YouTube. That's joincfe.com/YouTube. And we will also have some videos right here and right here that you can watch next.